Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over NVIDIA stock. Let's go over what has happened to the stock, what we can expect moving forward, and all of that good stuff. So as per usual, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my analysis, I do have a membership section down below where I share my technical analysis and thoughts on the charts, etc. every single day, mainly on Tesla stock, of course, but other stocks as well as a bonus pretty often. What is going on here, man? I'm going to refresh. Anyways, yeah, pretty often. So definitely check it out. The link is down below for $3 a month or for $5 a month. You get access to all of that plus NVIDIA daily updates as well. But jumping into it, NVIDIA closing the day up actually 0.6%, closing at $136.86, which of course compared to the market is, you can actually make an argument it's slightly underperforming, but nothing really too crazy. Now, NVIDIA is in an interesting spot here, right? We mentioned how, it did break trend, right? It did break trend, it did break below 137. That's not good, right? And, overall the stock, in my opinion, looks a little bit weak. And in all honesty, if we fast forward like, I don't know, a week or two or something like that, let's say like early December roughly, I genuinely wouldn't be surprised to see this 130 to maybe even tapping like, mid to high 120s like that genuinely would not be surprising to me, like at all. In fact, I actually kind of expected, because everyone's talking about this. So this is the thing okay, here, let me go ahead and remove these for now. So everyone is talking about roughly like this wedge that it broke under, which it did, right? Some people are talking about like this wedge that it broke under, which it did, but it seems like for some reason, nobody's really talking about this one, this overall, like really massive one, like that started here, that bounced here. Nobody's talking about this one right here. And this is the one that I expect NVIDIA to actually make its way down to, right? I expect NVIDIA to make its way down to all the way here. Again, I don't know when, but this would take it to about $130 per share, or maybe even briefly entering the 120s. Now, obviously, if we lose this line and this trend, okay, well then we go even lower for sure, and probably substantially lower as well. But until that happens, I see no reason to think that. But like I said, NVIDIA has, of course, triggered so far what seems to be a bearish change of character for the most part on the charts, where obviously we were of course making higher highs, higher lows, and now we of course made a fresh lower low. And now, if we get this bounce, which I expect us to get a bounce relatively soon, could be even earlier tomorrow or maybe even next week, because it is a shorter week. Of course, don't forget Thursday's market's closed, Friday it's a half day, but I expect us to set essentially a lower high and then make our way down to somewhere around here. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, this trend line holds and we just bounce from here. And that would be the ideal scenario, but we'll take it one step at a time. Of course, nobody knows for sure if that will actually happen. So naturally, like I said, one step at a time. Now, the thing that's a little concerning is this, right? There's a few things. So NVIDIA, let's talk about the bullish side. Actually, let's go over some bullish things, right? So the bullish things is the fact that NVIDIA actually is continuing to hold this 135-ish support, which I'd like to see. The 4-hour is, of course, on the bands, like I said before, a little bit oversold, right? It is, in oversold territories. Again, I said I wouldn't be surprised if it gets to 133, 134, but I wouldn't expect it to go much lower than that. Well, we ended up going down a little bit lower to 135.5, but we bounced from there, right? We bounced from there, and so far it's not looking too bad. And it does look like, I think it wants a bit of a bounce, right? A bit of a bounce, but the question is, of course, how high? Well, this is where the Fibonacci's come into play. Let's assume this is the low, and we'll get a rough Fibonacci from here to, roughly this low over here. Nothing, not a perfect Fibonacci retracement here, just rough demonstration. Main levels I'll be looking for, I don't think we'll go all the way up to 150s, I'll be completely honest, but the main levels I will be looking at is, if we're pretty bearish, it'll only go up to about the 140 to 142-ish range. But if there is some bullishness to NVIDIA, and there is some potentially, something that can actually, get the stock going at least to a decent level, I think we can make our way back up to about the 618 Fibonacci, which will be somewhere around the mid 140s, 145, 146, something like that. Those are the main two levels I'll be looking for on the potential bounce coming up, which I expect it to come up soon. Again, worst case scenario, we drop a little bit lower to 133 and then we bounce, or we just bounce from here. I don't know which one it'll be, but I don't think we'll go much lower than about $133. If I just look at the 4-hour bands, you can see right here, I don't think we'll go much lower than this line here, the second line. Usually when we get there, you can see we get a nice looking bounce here, nice looking bounce. And again, if we do come up down all the way here, probably get a nice looking bounce as well, which will take us to about that mid to low 140s. So that's kind of the general thing I'm expecting for NVIDIA. That's on the bullish end. Now, other thing I can say that's bullish is the fact that if you go to the daily chart and you just essentially count how many times has NVIDIA had consecutive red candles in a row. Well, right now we just closed the 5th consecutive red candle in a row. Looking back, you can see the only time that really stands out is, I mean, really back here. And how many was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red candles in a row before we finally got a green, or I guess in this case, a white candle. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, I guess this was a white candle technically, but the point is the fact that it doesn't usually sell off too aggressively like this without a bounce sooner than later. Like this is, it doesn't go to 6 red candles very, very often. Now, obviously, if we get a massive gap down and then we end up closing higher than the open, that technically would be a white candle. But again, the point is the fact that, you know, a stock as strong as NVIDIA, especially with the kind of earnings it is ultimately providing at the end of the day, it's pretty rare for it to just completely sell off too aggressively without at least some bounce. And I think we're getting very close, if not already there, which is also why I said if we do go a little bit lower, I don't think it'll be much lower than about 133. And I expect that to finally put in some bottom temporarily for a bounce to potentially, as far as I'm aware, set what would be a fresh lower high based on those Fibonacci's I just mentioned, which of course, if we do go lower to 133, those Fibonacci's will get a little bit different, but it'll essentially be similar idea, just maybe down $1 from those two levels I mentioned. So maybe 140 and like 144, 45, something like that. So anyway, that's kind of the bullish side, I guess, if you will, right? I think we're getting a bounce, and I think we're getting it relatively soon. Again, I don't know if it'll be tomorrow, but I don't think there's that much more pain ahead before some relief rally or dead cat or whatever you want to call it. Now, the bearish side as well, obviously the MACD still bearish. The MACD is still flip bearish. It's still pointing straight down. There are still some decent concerns on the MACD. That's not ideal. We of course have broke the trend, the change of character, where we have officially set that lower low. That's not ideal as well. So those things and the overall trend for NVIDIA is unfortunately a little bit bearish, even though short term, like very short term, we could get that bullish bounce. Those are not ideal. But the other reason why I say we can only go up to probably like the mid to low 140s roughly is because there is a lot of resistance there. Now, whether you want to look at it as just strictly the horizontal resistance, sitting at 140 and 145 roughly, that alone is already enough reason. But you can also argue the fact that we have the 20-day moving average sitting pretty much right at that kind of 143-ish range. That's going to be a resistance. We have the market bias, which is going to act as a potential resistance. It's still green. We're actually still holding this as green, which is good. But if I bring out the bands over here, these bands here, you can see these actually have turned ever so slightly red. In other words, the 8 EMA has officially crossed below the 21 EMA, right? That's not ideal. That's a bearish crossover. So if we do make our way back up into the, let's say, mid to low 140s, this area, of course, will also be a resistance with these bands. So that's why, again, even if we do get a short-term bounce from here, I don't expect NVIDIA to go too crazy. I don't think we'll see 150. Again, best case I can see right now is about 145. I don't think we'll go much higher than that for now. Of course, if I would love to be proven wrong, but I don't think we'll go much higher than that. And I, again, for now, expect that to be a dead cat, a Fibonacci retracement back up, relief rally, lower high, after we just set the lower low, and then ultimately we most likely will continue setting another fresh lower low. And again, I think NVIDIA will make its way down somewhere to around here in early December, around 130 to potentially even all the way down into the 120s ever so slightly. But as long as this trend line holds, there is a chance that NVIDIA does something like this, right? We go bounce up, make our way lower, and then potentially bounce from here. And then, we could rock it up. We could rock it up from here. That is a possibility. Or naturally, the bearish scenario, well, we break down, come back up, retest, and then make our way even lower and continue this bearish trend. That is the other possibility. Nobody knows which one it'll be. Nobody has any idea. You just kind of go with it as it happens, and you just assume, you don't assume anything, rather. You just kind of go with the flow. But again, you can easily make the argument if these bands turn red, which this one has already, and the market bias is getting really, really close. Okay, it's not really, really close. Pretty much the 8 and 21 have to cross down below the lower part of the market bias, and then that will also turn red, kind of like what it did right here, you can see. But, it's getting there. The point is that it's getting there. So there are some signs of concern. There is some turbulence above us. It's not impossible to break through, but as of right now, I don't expect it to. I expect a rejection on this potential dead cat coming up. I expect us to make our way back down to at least 130, if not maybe even entering 120s. And then we have to really reassess to see how the stock is looking, because again, in my opinion, breaking below this trend line would be very bearish. And I think NVIDIA will probably start off the year on a very bearish note. However, if you're patient and you have, the funds and whatever, not financial advice, could also provide a pretty phenomenal opportunity starting off for the year to head into the rest of the year. So we'll see. It really depends on how you want to look at it, right? But that's kind of the general consensus I have in the general analysis, if you will, that I have on NVIDIA. In terms of options flow, NVIDIA is, of course, going to be, where is it actually? Is it on the bullish side? It's right here. 3 million, nothing really to write home about. So pretty much mute, honestly. I mean, it is a short week, so that could be part of it. NVIDIA, the bears are definitely starting to step in. The bulls are not really stepping in as much. You can see a 1.6 and 1.2 million put coming in for December 20th, 134 put strike. So that's not ideal, but below that, the bulls are still stepping in the morning, right? You had a 6 million call here, you had a 1.1 million call here, you had a 500,000 call here, all expiring this week, by the way. They actually bought these when NVIDIA was at 137 pretty much, which it's pretty much at there right now. So clearly these whales are expecting a short-term bounce like I am, but these guys over here are clearly expecting NVIDIA to still make its way lower as we head into December, which is also what I'm expecting. So these options actually line up almost to perfection with what I expect. Short-term bullish, but slightly longer than that, you know, the next 2 weeks or something like that, overall bearish. And that's kind of what the options market is telling me right there with those things that I just saw, with those calls and puts that I just saw. So let's see if that's right. Let's see if that actually ends up coming to fruition or not. But yeah, that's my analysis. Let me know what you think. See you tomorrow. Peace.